Have you tried to forget them? Not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Because they left, or Allah pulled them away. Because nothing made sense anymore. Not the timing, not the silence, not the way your heart still whispered their name in every prayer you didn't mean to make. You deleted their messages. You blocked their profile. You even stopped visiting the places that reminded you of them. And yet, your soul still remembers. Why? Because what Allah ties in the unseen can never be erased by a few forced steps in the scene. You see, heartbreak doesn't always come from sin. Sometimes, heartbreak is an invitation, an unspoken call to return, to turn back to the only one who sees the cracks you tried so hard to hide, to the only one who can prepare your heart for the love you asked. For in tears on a night no one knew you were crying. You wanted them. You prayed for them. You felt peace in their presence. But what if Allah said, not yet? Not because you're not worthy, not because they are gone forever, but because He is still shaping your soul to fit the prayer you once made, not just with your words, but with your brokenness. There's a difference between being abandoned and being preserved, between being rejected by people and being protected by Allah. You think Allah is punishing you? No. He saw your heart attaching too fast. He saw your soul leaning before it was ready to carry the weight. So He covered you in delay. He didn't say, never. He said, not now, my servant, not yet. There are some people your soul remembers, because they were sent to wake you up, not to walk with you yet, but to remind you of what's possible when Allah writes the story. That ache in your chest, that's not just grief, it's divine rewiring. Allah is softening the hard places, cleansing the illusions, separating the ego's attachment from the soul's knowing. You see, soulmates aren't always delivered whole. Sometimes they arrive in pieces, at different times, on different paths. And Allah, the most wise, stitches the story with time. And time can feel like punishment. But with Allah, time is mercy in disguise. So yes, you've tried to forget them. You've buried the memories deep, silenced the dreams, stopped mentioning their name in prayer, telling yourself it's time to move on. But maybe, just maybe, what you thought was forgetting was actually preparing, not to forget the connection, but to forget who you were before Allah refined you through it. You're not the same person you were when your paths crossed. You've changed. You've softened in all the right places and strengthened in others. You've grown in tawakkul. You've learned how to stand on your own without crumbling. You've found your voice in prayer and your worth in your solitude, and maybe that was Allah's purpose all along. Not to remove them from your life entirely, but to remove the version of you that would have mishandled the blessing. Because timing is not just about the other person being right. It's about you being ready. And sometimes, Allah delays the gift until He's sure the hands receiving it are no longer trembling with desperation, but steady with faith. So as the tide washes away the heart in the sand, know this: what's meant for you will return. Not to the old you, but to the version Allah spent this season shaping. You're still healing, and that's okay, because healing means the heart is still alive, still tender, still open, still capable of feeling, of hoping, of breaking, yes, but also of returning. And most importantly, it means Allah is still near. You may feel like your dua was met with silence, but that silence was not a no. It was an, I'm still working on it. Quran open to Surah Al-Baqarah 2 and 2:16. But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows, while you know not. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:16. You see, Allah doesn't deny. He delays with wisdom. He rearranges with love. He protects with silence. So stop trying to erase the memory with force. Stop treating grief like failure. Let your heart grieve, gently, but let your soul grow even more. Because real love, the kind written by Allah, is never rushed, never reckless. When Allah writes love, He writes it with mercy, not impulse, with tests, not torment, with pauses that purify, not pain that punishes. So cry, heal, pray, and trust. When He is silent, He is still working on the story, on the timing, and on you. Maybe you were meant to meet them, just so your heart could remember how to pray again. Maybe you were meant to lose them, so your heart could finally meet the one who never leaves. And maybe, just maybe, you're not really waiting for them. You're waiting for you, the version of you that's healed, the version that doesn't cling from emptiness, but receives from wholeness, the version of you that finally trusts Allah's timing more than your own plans. Because when Allah finally gives it back, if He does, you'll understand why it had to be delayed. The separation wasn't a punishment, it was preservation. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was divine orchestration. And the heartbreak? That wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your return, back to dua, back to tawakkul, back to the one who writes every love story, with purpose, with mercy, and with perfect, unshakable timing. That was the surgery, the kind that heals the soul before reuniting it with what it was always meant for. So if you're tired, if you've tried to forget them, and still you feel them in your soul, maybe it's not a mistake. Maybe you were never meant to forget, only to surrender. Until Allah decides the reunion is safe for both your hearts. He is the best of planners, and His delay is never without wisdom. Quran 8:30. When it's written by Allah, it won't need chasing, it won't need forcing. It will return with peace, and it will feel like home. Until then, surrender. Because the one who placed that love in your heart knows exactly when to bring it back to life,